What's going on, everybody? We are back again looking at six more receivers. We're finishing up the receivers today. This will be up. We've covered after this video 21 receivers, so we'll move on to the running backs next. But yeah, first we got to get to these last six receivers and guys that should be taken, maybe with day two, day three picks that could potentially be fantasy relevant. As always, joined by my father, Jeff. How's it going, Dad?
How you doing, Mike? And how's it going, everybody else? Let's get into it. Looking at wide receivers.
Yeah. I know we talked a little bit about it, but pro days going on. I didn't really catch a lot of the news. Was there anything crazy with pro days that happened? I know everyone was talking about Marvin Harrison Jr., but he's not
Yeah,
not
but he
eligible.
wasn't even, yeah, he's not even. He was just kind of being the receiver, catching C.J. Stroud's balls and stuff. So, what quarterback has a bad pro day? I guess the last one I heard was like Teddy Bridgewater in 2014 or something. But he was still drafted, top 5, top 10. So,
Yeah. There shouldn't be too much that comes out of it. Like nothing should change your mind too much about because of a pro day, right? For these scouts, I would say.
yes.
It's going to be about film and combine and interview stuff. Maybe interview stuff is the biggest thing, right?
So, yeah, I think a lot of that stuff's going on now, interviews, and each team, guys are getting drafted, and each team has 30 interviews, and I'm thinking, like, my word, these guys must be just flying around the country, left and right for the next month. And but anyway, we'll stop talking about that junk and
we'll get into it. So yeah, six more guys. Last video we talked about Rashee Rice, Xavier Hutchinson, Cedric Tillman, E.T. Perry, Tyler Scott, and Michael Wilson. And today we're going to start off with Trey Palmer, who played at both LSU, or he attended LSU for 3 years and then went to Nebraska in his senior year, where he had his biggest year. So he was good enough to get drafted to LSU, which is a big time school. But yeah, what'd you think about Trey Palmer, their dad? 6'1", 190.
Yeah, he was supposed to be going to LSU. If you're a wide receiver going to LSU, you're upper echelon. And he was supposedly a 5-star recruit. And for some reason, things didn't work out at LSU, and he decided to go to Nebraska. And he was kind of the man in Nebraska, and he had pretty good numbers. He's got his speed is 4.33, so he's got elite speed.
Yeah.
And he caught 71 passes for about 1,050 yards. So he was a pretty hot commodity in Nebraska.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I think it was with Trey Palmer where it was some off the field stuff with him maybe. But I don't want to say anything that's not true. So, but I think that might have been the reason, or maybe it was just he wasn't getting playing time. But anyways, he goes to Nebraska, and yeah, definitely the speed jumps off. I mean, what did you say? His 4.33 was his 40-yard.
4.33.
Yeah, which is really fast. And he's a taller guy too. He's not like a 5'10" fast guy. He's 6'1", so it's always good to see. We actually mentioned him in the last video, but again, comparisons to a guy like a Quez Watkins, where he's probably gonna be mostly a one-trick pony type of guy. Being that vertical deep threat for teams on their 3-4 wide receiver sets. As of now, from what we've seen, yeah. But I don't know. Again, I've already expressed my views on these type of guys for fantasy purposes. Not my favorite receivers to target. But maybe it could turn out. Maybe other things could kind of develop when he gets into the NFL and he becomes a little bit more of a consistent route runner. I don't know. It's just him going up for the ball and catching it. You don't see it that much. Not a lot of physicality. Route running was okay. It was mostly speed is where he wins. Yeah. And I like to see just a little bit different levels of winning, I guess.
Yeah, I see his drop rate almost 12%. That's pretty high.
Yeah.
And half of his yards last year were considered deep balls. So I mean that's his game right now, speed and things like that. So
yeah,
he needs to yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He needs to get better, maybe a little better route running and things like that, and be a complete receiver. But he's impressive on video. You look at him on video. Of course, you're looking at his good plays and things that he did well. So,
Yeah, and it's a lot for an average viewer, even for people who are above average viewers. It's way better to when you see a 40-yard, 50-yard bomb, you're like, oh yeah, like that guy's great. But there's actually there's a lot more that can tell you about a type of receiver someone is on like a 10-yard completion versus a 50-yard completion. So it just seems like he won with speed, and that was basically it. And I like to have, again, guys who can win on for multiple things, lateral movements, physicality, speed. If you have a couple of those things or all of them, very few people have all of them, which you'd be a first rounder if you did. But yeah, he'll get drafted. He'll have a role in an offense again, like a Quez Watkins. You probably ask Eagles fans. They probably think he's very valuable to their team for what he brings. But the casual or even non-casual, fantasy football guy, we don't really care about Quez Watkins too much from the fantasy point of view, right? Yeah. Anything else on Trey Palmer or move on?
Let's go to Jaden Reed.
Yeah, Jaden Reed, sorry, from Michigan State. I really liked him what I saw. I didn't watch a whole lot of Michigan State this last year. He's 6 foot 185, so he's a little light. But when I watched him, he kind of reminded me of Tyreek Hill, not because of his speed necessarily, but just like how they used him. He was moving all over the place. He was kind of winning. He can win on all three levels, I think, like the short game, the intermediate. He can take you deep. He doesn't have blazing speed. What did he run in the 4.4s? Yeah, 4.45, 40, which is really good. So he's not anywhere close to the speed of Tyreek Hill, but just in terms of how they were using him and jet sweeps and end arounds and putting him in motion and kind of winning on all three levels, I saw a little of like Tyreek Hill in his game, which I really like. He kind of just he's good at multiple things. He's elusive. He's above average speed, good route running. He's not super physical, but that's maybe his biggest weakness is the physicality. But I can see the path for him. Again, going back to the guy we just talked about with Trey Palmer, I see his role with Reed. I can see where he can be like a weapon, maybe a third receiver on a good offense that's going to use him creatively, and he can be a weapon. So I like him a lot, especially for just if he was on the Chargers, I'd love it. As a Chargers fan.
Yeah. So Big Ten football, that's my favorite. I watched this guy in 2021 pretty much dominate the Michigan Wolverines in that game where he was getting open and caught a lot of contested passes and he just looked the part of all around really good wide receiver.
Yeah.
I do know he returned. He did some punt returning. I don't know if that's going to be
Probably, yeah.
a thing in the NFL, but I like Jaden Reed. He had a better junior year, 2021, than he did in 2022. You know, as far as statistics, I know Michigan State, they were kind of their quarterback situation wasn't the best thing, so it wasn't necessarily Jaden Reed's fault. And this is because I watch, Michigan State and
Yeah.
a few times, so I do know this guy is kind of the real deal. Looks good. He's in my dynasty. If I'm looking at second or third round wide receiver, and I wouldn't hesitate to be scooping this guy up,
Yeah.
especially
It
third
seems.
round. I probably should say.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see where he see where he goes. I see a projection of a fourth round, and so. Um, but yeah, it just feels like kind of his floor. Like he's going to be a weapon in the NFL, whether it's a punt returner or just kind of moving him around all over the offensive scheme. So it feels like his floor is kind of safe, and there's the potential. There's some potential there. I don't think his potential is as high as a guy like from last video, Rashee Rice or a Michael Wilson. Like I don't know if he can be a consistent number 2 receiver for a team, but he can definitely be a really good weapon. And yeah, I think I'd like a guy like that in the later rounds of a rookie draft and just on my NFL team as well. Anything else on Jaden Reed? He can run the ball too. Yeah, returns kicks, punt returns. So yeah, he just kind of does it all. It does it all. But we'll move on. I think our next on our list is Parker Washington. Is that what we have? Parker Washington from Penn State.
Penn State. Nittany
What
Lions.
is? Yeah. What is? You want to start with Parker Washington? Or you want me to?
No, I'll go ahead and this guy, nothing really jumped out and spanked me in the face or anything like that about this guy, but he kind of never was the guy at Penn State. He's 5'10", 204 pounds, and I don't have a 40 number on him, but he's just a guy. What do they call him? I heard on XM radio and the NFL channel, they call him a jag, just another guy, So I don't see anything spectacular about this guy, but people do. He caught 46 passes last year. He's we'll have to see what he turns into. I don't know if you have anything more, Mike.
Yeah. I looked up his 40 time because I don't think he ran at the combine. They're saying maybe in the 4.5s, so or maybe in the late 4.4s he could get into. So decent speed. I kind of liked him. I think a little more than maybe you did. What I liked, I think, the most about him is that he can kind of go up and catch passes. Yeah, he kind of makes a lot of spectacular catches, even though he is only 5'10". He's 215, so he's kind of a thicker guy.
My God, his hand size is 10.125.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable, really.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah, especially for being 5'10", you know? So I think that helps him in making these kind of spectacular catches. And you can kind of see, like, okay, I get what you mean. Like, speed, okay, route running is okay. He's not like this amazing athlete. He wasn't even featured in the offense really that much. You know, that was like Jahan Dotson last year. And this year, I'm not so sure why he wasn't featured a little bit more in the offense. But,
Well,
you know,
Penn
plays a lot
State,
in the slot.
yeah,
Yeah.
Penn State's they're not a pass heavy offense or anything like that. So we'll just have to kind of make that clear, you know.
Yeah.
Typical Big Ten, you know, smash mouth type offense and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I don't know. I think I liked him. Maybe out of these six guys, he might be my favorite, just in terms of, like, again, you can see the path of him maybe being a little bit more of a consistent player. Um, him and Jaden Reed, sorry, are definitely my two favorite guys. And yeah, I like his like yards after the catch. He kind of runs like a running back a little bit. He's kind of built a little bit like a running back, being 5'10", 215. Um,
Yeah, that's pretty
and
stocky.
yeah, and just his ability to kind of go up and get those catches. He's physical for his short, you know, shorter size. Um, but yeah, I get what you mean. If nothing else, athletically, kind of jumps off the page at you. So I'll be very interested to see where he goes, and I could see him kind of rising in the dynasty world if he does get like a round three draft capital or something like that, or goes to a good team. Um, I could definitely see him, or even during like preseason, like he's going to make catches. They're going to be like, oh, you know, you're going to see on highlight reels and um, Instagram and Facebook reels and all that stuff. So, um, yeah, I like him maybe for that potential more than anything else. Yeah. But we'll move on to the next guy, a guy who you kind of see him ranked all over the place, is Raheem Jarrett, Maryland. And yeah, he's an interesting guy. He is another guy, 6', 190. Just kind of screams like slot guy to me. Good route runner, like decent, not great. He's good after the catch, you know, good speed. I think he's in the 4.4s, but he's a smaller guy, and I just think he's going to be very limited to the slot. But that's not the worst thing. I don't know. Just to me, you know, you've kind of talked about it with Parker Washington as a Jag, just another guy. I kind of felt that way a little bit with Raheem Jarrett, and just like, yeah, you know, I can see him maybe making a team and being, you know, that third, fourth receiver on the team, slot guy, but don't see much else from him in the potential. So, what did you think of Raheem Jarrett?
Yeah, I think his stats weren't he didn't like jump off the he had let me go back. So he played 3 years at Maryland. You know, he had 17 receptions, then he had 62, and then he had 40 receptions. So I think his senior year, his last year, he had some injury issues where he didn't play every game. He played quite a few, but he wasn't targeted a lot. He's just, you know, he's kind of an average 40 receptions, University of Maryland, Big Ten football. So I don't know. There's nothing really scary there, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I just kind of seeing him as being like you know, if he gets to like Jamison Crowder levels, I think that's kind of like his ceiling, in my opinion. and his best seasons were good, probably good enough to be on especially PPR fantasy teams. Like I think I'm looking now, his best year, 78 catches, 830 yards, 6 touchdowns. It's a good year. But to me, that's kind of this guy's Raheem Jarrett's ceiling. Is that a kind of a career like Jamison Crowder? So not a guy I'm going to be particularly interested in drafting, unless for some reason he gets like a second round draft capital or something crazy. But I'd be very surprised. But yeah, we'll move on to the next guy that I have to kind of look up the pronunciation is Andre. I think it's Yoshivaz. I looked it up. It doesn't look like that when you see how it's spelled. I think it's Iosivas, but it's Yoshivaz, and he went to Princeton. You don't hear of many NFL players at all coming out of Princeton, especially I'd say skill position guys. But you look at his combine numbers, the Senior Bowl. Apparently, he just kind of was blowing people away. And you go down to his combine numbers, like he's running in the high 4.4s. He's jumping almost 40 inches. His broad jump's really good. He's 6'3", he's 205. Again, great combination of size and speed. Yeah, a 6'3" in the low 4.4s. Not a lot of those guys come out. There's not a lot of those guys in the NFL. There just isn't. 6'3", 205. So,
I guess.
But yeah, go ahead.
He had a really good Senior Bowl, which matters. When you're at the Senior Bowl, they have 3 or 4 days of practice that lead up to the game, which is on a Saturday, and it's the practices that because you're playing against you're practicing against your peers. Mm-hmm. So if you're invited to the Senior Bowl, that's one check up. If you have a good Senior Bowl, that's another major check up because you're playing against the players that your peers, guys who are at the same level. So this guy, sure. Andre Avocius, did pretty well. He's a bigger boy, 6'3", 200 pounds. He caught 64 passes last year. He caught 42 the year before. So, we know Princeton's not a hotbed for football talent, but guys come from everywhere. So I've seen some of his highlights in his video, and he looks the part, and again, they're not playing against the upper echelon guys, but he looks pretty good. So this guy could have a role.
Cornell.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, someone's going to take a chance on him. No, I was just you were talking about the talent, and you're playing Yale and Cornell, which is why the Senior Bowl is like really important for these type of guys who don't get to go against LSU and Ohio State and Michigan all the time.
Well, for him just to even be invited is probably pretty special, and he's taking advantage of an opportunity, so that helps.
Yeah, it's his speed. He's winning with his speed, and if he can develop into something else, he's going to be special. And when we talk about other speed guys, guys that are kind of like just winning with speed, like a Tyler Scott for Cincinnati. The reason why I prefer guys like this, I guess, again, on Andre Yoshivaz, I think, or however you say it. Why I like guys like this is like, okay, well, he went to Princeton for a reason, like maybe he started playing football late. Maybe he wanted to go to Princeton because it's Princeton, but maybe he he just started kind of learning football, and maybe he grew a few inches recently, and there's a lot guys develop a lot later, and so there is that potential for this guy to if he does get drafted by an NFL team to get around NFL coaches that will know how to teach him about how to run routes, because he doesn't really run very well his routes. He's a 9 guy, right? The go route, runs down the field and outruns everyone. But if he can develop more, because he definitely has all the athleticism in the world. It's kind of crazy the amount of athleticism he has. I like it. It's intriguing. It's intriguing. I don't think he'll go. Yeah, I think he's definitely going to be a day 3 pick, 5th, 6th, 7th round guy. But someone's going to take a shot on him for sure. Someone will. I'm always curious to see guys like that, where they go and how they develop. So, anything else on him?
No, it's just to add on what you're saying. It's somebody to pay attention to where he goes and see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. All right, and our last guy we're going to talk about today is Jalen Moreno Cropper from Fresno State. Another fast guy, yeah. Another speed guy. What did you think about Jalen Moreno Cropper?
Yeah, I always look at how long they play. So this guy's played. He's a senior, so he's played, major college football for 3 to 4 years. His last 2 years, 2021, he had 85 catches. 2022, he had 83. To me, those are always significant. He's 2021, he had 11 touchdowns. 2022, he only had 5, but he seems guy seems pretty fluid. Knows how to run routes. He's 6 foot, 180, which isn't huge, but it's not small. But so he looks
Fast.
pretty good. I think his I'm trying to find his 40 time. What did I say?
4.4 flat.
Yeah. So that's reasonably fast. Fresno State. I know it's not a Power 5, but big time college football system. So this guy looks the part.
Yeah.
Could be one of those middle round guys.
Yeah, we'll see where he goes. I think he's projected as like a 4th round guy, and again, he's going to have his role in the NFL as like a slot guy, probably more of a vertical slot guy. I was looking at a number where they said he was 9. What was it? I'm missing it now. His contested catch rate was like terrible, 9 for 30. So you get 9 out of 30 catchable balls, or he only caught 9 out of 30 catchable balls when it was contested. Another defensive back there, in his grill, like, which is what you're going to get in the NFL more often than not. He just doesn't make contested catches, and that's concerning for sure. That's going to limit you a lot. That means you're not going to probably be put on the outside very much. You're going to be a slot guy to where you're not getting pressed at the line. But if he can get past you, he definitely has the speed to run past you. I mean, it was fun to watch, especially that UCLA game in 2021 was a pretty amazing game to watch for Fresno State. But just a very linear kind of athlete. Maybe doesn't make the good cuts and stuff, which is why I kind of said he's more of like a vertical slot. He's not maybe that slot guy that's going to be, doing the short routes, because he's not very good with this route running in that sense. He's a speed guy, deep threat. So I've already told you many times how I feel about those guys. So for fantasy. But yeah, I guess 6 more guys we looked at. Any of these 6 you really like, or that you like maybe over? I think you said Cedric Tillman and Hutchinson in the last video. Any of these guys you like over those 2, or who's your favorite from this group?
I like I like Jalen Reed, Michigan State.
Mm-hmm. I got you calling him Jalen. I kept saying it, Jaden.
Jaden Reed, yeah. I have it written on some notes here, like
I kept saying Jalen.
So. Jaden, yeah. I think he's probably my number one. I think I think the Nebraska guy Palmer has a chance. Trey Palmer, he's got a chance, even though, I don't know if his situation was right at LSU and things like that. I don't know the details, but I think he's got a chance to do something. So there's at least 6 guys here, 6 out of 12 that I wouldn't have a problem drafting in. I know our Dynasty League, we have 4 rounds. I wouldn't mind drafting a couple of these guys if they're available. And you might have to hold on to them. And, if you can get one of them to hit, then you've done something right.
For sure. Yeah, I'm there with you with Jaden Reed. He's probably my number 2 in this group. I think Parker Washington's going to be my number 1. And just because those 2 guys, again, I can kind of see the path of where they have a chance to be maybe the second weapon on a team. Everyone else in this group, I don't see it. Maybe the Princeton guy, but that's going to be probably in a couple years at best. The other guys they have their roles as deep threats or slot guys. But yeah, Parker Washington, Jaden Reed, those 2 guys I really like, and to pair them with Rashee Rice and Michael Wilson from the last video, those 4 guys. Which is the last of the last 12 that we talked about. Those 4, and A.T. Perry I'll throw in as well. Those 5 are guys that I can see, being the number 2 potentially on a team, which is what I'm looking for. So it was good to look at these guys. And again, there's going to be lots going to change with draft capital. There's going to be guys that we missed that maybe go in the 4th round or something. We'll have to go back and talk about. But other than that, we are done with the receivers. It was interesting. It feels like overall thoughts on the receivers, Dad. We've talked about 21 of them. Overall thoughts about compared to recent years and just your overall feelings of these receivers.
There's not a lot of huge names, and just kind of comparing it to last year. I listened to a lot of NFL media, either on XM radio or I heard on the Colin Cowherd show, TJ Hushmanzada talking, and he listed about 6-7 guys who are going to be relevant wide receivers and stuff like that. So, and they're all names that we've talked about here, and so there's going to be some guys. The thing is, they don't line up, and they're not going to be relevant in September. A lot of them, people who are going to be relevant are going to be November. And if those guys aren't relevant, then they're going to be relevant the next year, So there's, as you guys can see, during the free agency period, there's a lot of movement of players. Old guys out. Oh, you make too much money, you're out of here. I'm keeping the young 4th rounder or 3rd rounder and give them a chance. So we're talking dynasty drafts, holding on to guys, and when the other drafts, the other fantasy football, we want instantaneous results. We want the Tyreek Hill, the Jalen Waddle, the Keenan Allens, the Brandon Ayuk, the AJ Brown. So it's not always going to happen.
Yeah. No, it's not. It's not. And I think we kind of knew coming into this wide receiver draft, it was not going to be maybe as top heavy as the past couple drafts have been, but it seems like there's a lot of guys kind of like what you were saying, 6, 7 guys, maybe even more. So maybe it's like a little more deep than past drafts, just not as top heavy. And yeah, it was good. It was good. I see a lot of talented players, and it makes sense. I mean, the receiver is the premier position besides quarterback in the NFL now, and and everyone's going to want to grow up and be a receiver, not a running back type of thing. So you're going to get a lot more talent coming in for sure. Your wide receiver one was Addison, right? That's who you said.
Yeah, I think Addison is the guy I like.
Okay. Yeah, Jordan Addison from USC, which is good. I'm a Quentin Johnston guy from TCU, so we'll see how that develops. And yeah, we'll finish up there, and we will be coming at you with the running backs next week. Very deep group, deep class of running backs. So it'll be fun to look at those guys. But we will catch you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, all that stuff, and we'll catch you guys next
Adios,
week.
everybody.